by the way, I also make art, and I want to make sure that you had a confidence to come out, because for me, one of the things that's been missing is I just put the art out, but I never put myself out. So that was a big challenge with the, you know what I mean? Even when I did the rap, I was like, I didn't really put myself out like that. It was just more like, let me hide behind this art, let me post and ghost, so that's like something I'm still like dealing with that, because it's just like, well, I suffer a lot from imposter syndrome early on. Just like, should I be doing this? There's people out here that's like really doing this. Like I'm not comparing myself to anybody, but I'm thinking about Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale, he made The Strangest Secret. He has a super deep, rich voice like I do. So I always kind of modeled my tone and vibe after his calm and chill.
All right.
But that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm like, I shouldn't be. And then I would start comparing myself. I look at other people's pages and see what they're doing. And it's like, I should be, you should never say I should be there. And that is when it doesn't become fun to create.
That's right.
Right. So growth mindset allowed me, when I start studying the topic that I'm talking about, it allows me to recognize that moment quickly and throw it away and move on with good energy.
Artists, creatives, and designers. I'm your host, Electra, and welcome to DreamAloud Art, where we have educating, inspiring, and motivating conversations with creatives from around the world. Show some love and support by subscribing, liking this video, and uplift another creative by sharing this video. Let's tune in to another amazing conversation. Let's go. Artists, creatives, and designers, welcome to DreamAloud Art on YouTube. And we have a very amazing, intelligent, gifted guest today, y'all. Now, who is he? It is the brother Freed. Okay, Freed, hold on. Now, Freed is a Respect the Artist member, RTA member, okay? Don't know nothing about it? You need to click the links below so you can find out about it. But I want to give a quick plug because Freed has been riding with RTA for years now, and we are so glad to have him as part of our family. Now, a little bit about Freed before we dive into even more is that he's a multimedia artist and illustrator who is focused on helping creatives with growth mindset so they can break through limitations. Hold on. So they can break through limitations and confidently share their gifts with the world. Come on, y'all. Clap it up. Clap it up. We got Freed in the building.
Appreciate you having me.
Pleasure. It is a pleasure having you here. Good gracious, Freed. I am so excited. So I want to put a quick highlight on a few things, y'all. Freed, once again, artist, and he also has his platform on the podcast. Okay. So he's making conversations, creating that safe space for us to feel more encouraged, y'all. And y'all know I'm all about that life. Okay. Because we need that. I just feel like creatives need that boost, So tell us, we're going to go down memory lane a little bit. So let's warm up to your history with being a visual artist, because I see all your work behind you, all your masterpieces. So tell us a little bit about when you first really started to feel like, maybe I should lean more into demonstrating my creativity as far as visual arts is concerned.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I've known for a very long time that I needed to share my gift. My father, one of my earliest memories, my dad, he's a painter. He's also a musician. And I remember as a kid watching Purple Rain, and he was painting a picture of a woman, and I was playing with his saxophone, and I had a little Star Wars toy. And I was just like, I'm going to draw this one day. And I'm looking at my dad draw. So I felt like it was just like natural, like to share that gift. So I've been drawing since a kid. I remember when I was in first grade, they gave us some clay. And this was my first experience with clay. And I made a kangaroo, and everybody like passed it around. Like I remember this vividly as like a 6-year-old. And so that's when I knew it was like, okay, this is like something I need to get into. So as I grow up, as a child, I'm a larger kid. I'm a husky kid.
Yep.
And I was very, I wouldn't say I was shy. I was very introverted always because I didn't have like the newest things. Like I was kind of out of shape. And what I would
Mm.
do to make friends is I would sit at the cafeteria lunch table and I would just pull out some paper and just start drawing.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And like I would draw Bart Simpson and Ninja Turtles and X-Men, and everybody would just gather around and they'd be like, oh, this is cool. And then that's when I really knew,
Mm.
like, okay, this is a way to make friends. And I'm from Fresno, California. So it's a
Mm.
mix of different types of people and
Yeah.
from different backgrounds. And coming up in the 90s, there was a lot of just like different influences, like a lot of gang influences and stuff like that. The
Mm.
art allowed me to stay central. Like I didn't
Ugh.
have to get caught up in like I was known for the art. That's the artist. He's cool.
Ugh.
Right. Like, hey, you could come
So
sit over
good.
here. Let him go. Right. So it was like
So
that
good.
art. I feel like art saved my life. Right. So
Ooh.
I'm getting deep into it, but I
Ooh.
knew early on, like, okay, this is even when I would quit art, which I've quit making art a few
Mm-hmm.
times, it
Hiatus.
always comes back. Yes. You
Doesn't
don't
it? Wait,
you only quit if you stop doing it. So I don't quit. I hate. I'll take a hiatus, right?
hiatus.
And
I
I come back. Yeah.
understand.
So that's kind
Oh
of
my
long,
goodness.
long answer to your short question.
No, that's no, that's what we need. We need to know, and you have let us know, most definitely. And so of course my mind is pinging here because I have taught children, so I've
Mm,
taught like every grade level in grade school. So when you and I have taught, or actually I had covered for art teachers before, and I love to do it. I love to teach, so I love kids. So when I have a chance to do it, I just do it, right? But you never know what that child is going to remember because we remember stuff, and so when I'm teaching children in an art class setting, like I hype them up, and rightfully so, and it's like the look on their face is like, what, like someone actually sees my work and actually feels like it's really something and it's valuable. That stays with you, like
yeah.
I remember those things too. I remember some moments as a child where it's like this big aha. And so that's wonderful. I love that. And I love how you said about like you were known as like the artist or like the kid
Yes.
who draws, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we all know, if we're not that one, but didn't we all know someone like that? Like,
Absolutely.
oh, he draws Marvin the Martian or like the Looney. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, that's
Looney
great. That's
Tunes, Tweety
golden.
Bird.
That,
Yeah.
yes, all the vibes. Okay, real quick, y'all. Y'all make sure that you click all the links, have a click party, click all the links in the description so you can support the homie Freed going forward. So, okay, we've touched on some of your experience as an artist and your enlightened moments, growing up where you're like, yes, like I want to lean into that. And of course, sometimes we take a break, sometimes we take a hiatus, and sometimes it's just good to take a break, period. But then, as you said, it's like it comes right back around. And so I'm sure that you have had different things that you've dived into as a creative, where you're like, you know what, let me try this over here. This feels like it's more fluid. And it's like, I'm not really feeling that. What kind of advice can you give artists who are trying different things, but they get a little bit frustrated because they feel like they need to, how can I say this? Because I'm gonna get wired up in a minute here, but I'm of course you got the mic on this one. They feel like they need to find that one thing that they can just consistently stick with forever and ever, amen. And if they don't find it soon, then they're going to have a meltdown. What kind of advice would you give that artist to stay encouraged, I guess, in those moments?
That's a really good question. And
Mm.
as an experienced gentleman who's been doing this for a while, I believe that for me personally, I could just speak
Mm-hmm.
for experience. I was too focused on trying to find whatever that thing was versus being aware that, hey, you're in the process of finding it and it's going to come to you as long as you
Oh my.
stick with the central purpose. And I think that's where people get thrown off. There's not like a central purpose. Like if I have a central purpose, I know I'm an artist. And I saw this lady on Instagram and she has an affirmation. I wrote it down and
Mm-hmm.
it says, my creative success is inevitable.
Ugh,
So I've been leaning into that. And that's my central purpose. So I would
mm,
encourage any artist who doesn't
that's
know
good.
where to go, they're focused on like, where do I, especially first of all, don't compare yourself because a lot of that is rooted in comparison. But
Mm,
for me, I felt like once I took a step back and realized that my central purpose is that my creative success is inevitable, I could try everything. I could not necessarily dabble, right? Like you want to have
right,
something that you're a master in.
right.
But like
Absolutely.
that's why I say I'm multimedia artist because I could do traditional sketch, I could do the graphics, I could rap. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a lot of like I would say all your art should be explored. Like you are put on this earth to express your gifts. And one other thing that hurt me is that I was too considerate of what others would think.
Mm.
And one thing you said, Electra, is that the
What's that?
supporter, you said the supporters are going to support.
Oh,
You said that years ago on a live.
come on.
And I just always thought that was just like real crispy, like it just stuck
Mm.
with me.
Oh, I
So
appreciate that.
as I came out and I would tell folks as you're sharing your art with the world, as you're creating your art, create with the central purpose in mind, but
Mm.
also have some joy at the foundation of it. Because
Mm.
if you start chasing, you're going to lose joy. Now you're creating out of necessity. You're not necessarily
Woo.
creating out of from an authentic place in your heart, you know? So at least that's my experience. I've cost myself a lot of opportunities looking for that one
Mm.
thing. And it's like, man, you are the gift. So
Yes. Oh, good. That was too many gems. I don't have enough hands to hold all those gems.
you
Like
wow.
that was a lot, Reed. That was a lot. And I
That's what's
know
up.
y'all drop some comments on that one. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, make
Yeah.
sure that you watch the YouTube video so you can get the full energy and of course get a glance at the masterpieces behind Freed, all of his work. Listen, that you unpacked a lot right there. There's so much more that can be branched off from different things that you just mentioned.
No
You
doubt.
know, having that central, what did you say? What is it called? Like a
Like a
central
central purpose.
purpose. Okay.
Mhm.
That is like it reminds me of artists who say that well, I enjoy photography, ceramics and painting, all that. I feel like I need to like get more focused or maybe I shouldn't be doing that and I feel like I'm all over the place. Here's the thing that I would promote to them is that if there's only two ways you can go here. You either feel all over the place and confused or you can be confident in the fact that you enjoy these different mediums. Like you pick one, okay? Excuse me. But yeah, pick one because you can flourish if you lean into it and say, you know what, I accept that I love these mediums and I want to explore. Then by all means do it. But however, if you are trying to be goal oriented and be a little more focused on creating a business out of this, then yes, it would help that you have some systems in place. That doesn't mean that you have to pick one. You just need to have systems in place in order to flourish with these things. So, yeah, but giving yourself that, here we go, but giving yourself permission to explore without feeling like you need to move off survival and like, well, I got to make this happen. I got to make this happen. It's like, okay, if joy is at the center, as you had just mentioned, if that's part of that foundation, then joy, I believe, would mean that you're moving with ease. And it
Mhm.
feels natural for you to do this. If it doesn't feel natural, if you feel a little resistance inside, well, then try something else. Try a different method, try a different medium. Like go with what feels smoothest. And that's just a lot. That was really powerful. This is why you got a podcast, y'all. This is why Ray got a podcast.
That's what's up. I appreciate that.
Yes. Yes. And y'all know, okay, so we're okay. Woosah. All right. So I'm so wired up because we're going to lean more or lean the discussion, move the discussion more into confidence, growth mindset, because we have to make these things a talking point. Okay. Y'all know that big C word, confidence. I am so all about that. I have a book about it. Okay. The Confident Artist. So come on. All right, Freed. So, oh gosh, where shall we start when it comes to confidence? Let's start with okay, and I'm putting myself in the shoes of an artist who just generally feels like they're not very confident in their creations. Okay.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
is the starting point for them? If they know that, like, let's just say, here's a popular one is that they create, draw, paint, graphic design, whatever. They're creating behind closed doors and it's not out of the journaling, right? Because that's one thing if you're just journaling and you're doing that for your own enjoyment and
Mhm.
you're not really trying to share it. But it's another thing when you have that little inkling of a thought of like, I feel like I should be sharing this, right? So, but they're not confident in what they're doing. What is a
Mhm.
good starting point for them to just kind of lean more into that confidence that they already have?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the best way to quickly gain confidence, in my experience, is to
Is
get
what?
proof, is to get proof of your concept. So the way that
Mm,
I've done that is I will go study a master in the field, or maybe find something that I can add to my art that I haven't tried yet. So
oh
here's an
God.
example.
Ooh.
I'm learning more about perspective. Like that's I want to master perspective, one point to infinity.
Mm,
So
mm.
I put out. I spent hours learning about perspective. I studied
Ooh.
all these different people, and then I made a little warm up and animated it, and I put it out, and it blew up.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, now I got proof. So now I'm going to start making more designs with perspective in mind because I went and got proof that people liked it. They were curious. They were like, what is this?
Mm.
So I always feel like just training, like I'm a lifelong student. As an artist, I feel like we should always be studying and not just like your medium, but like I study life because I believe art is life, right? So especially looking at perspective, now everything I see, I'm like
Ah,
looking at it in 3D space, like I'm looking at it from different angles and points.
oh my God.
So if you want to get confidence, I would say go spend like invest 10 to 30 minutes on some sort of YouTube tutorial that you can
Yes.
learn something new, a
Mm-hmm.
concept, a style. You can learn about composition, whatever, something that you have not tried that would
Mm.
be easy for you to implement. And then share it. Maybe share if you're talking about sharing it online, maybe to start with your stories. But you can even share with your friends, with your family, start sending it to
Mm.
them, build like different separate accounts if you don't want to mess up your main account, right? I got like 10
Absolutely.
different Instagrams. So there are different things that you could do, but I would say that the confidence starts in learning and then applying and then sharing. And then
Yes.
then you got to follow it up with consistency.
Yes. Ooh, another favorite word of mine is consistency. Boy, what? That is
Absolutely.
so good. Thank you so much for that, Freed. Yeah, absolutely. When I've taught artists about gaining more confidence, and I air quote that because it's not like you're seeking outside of yourself. Like people say, "Well, I got to get more confident." I mean, the confidence is already there. You just got to like access it. That's all. But touching on having knowledge, right? Having that knowledge, mastering or stay in the process of mastering, right? But
Mhm.
that consistency and you're gaining the knowledge, that's how you build confidence. And a simple example that I use is I will ask someone, "What's your name?" And then they'll tell me their name. And then I'll say, "Well, is it okay if I call you something else?" And then they're like, "No." And I tell them that's how rooted you have to be in what you're doing. It's like you know who you are. Like my name's Electra, and no one else can tell me that it's something else. I know who I am. So yeah, absolutely. Getting that knowledge and really that just increases your confidence. It does. It just
Yes,
does. But
absolutely.
yes, consistency, that's a whole you know what I was going to say, it's a whole nother topic, but let's touch on consistency.
Sure.
So share, if you will, Fareed, share a little bit about what consistency looks like. And yeah, basically, let me stop right there. What consistency looks like, because I feel like artists don't do themselves justice for the ways they're already consistent. And I'm
Hmm.
not sure what, like here's a simple example. Artists will ask me, well, how often should I post on Instagram? Well, how often? I mean, like, like what does that look like? So do you think that posting every day, this is what, they'll ask me, should I post every day? Because that would be more consistent. Okay, so you're telling me if you post once a week, that's not consistent. If you
Mhm.
post 2 or 3 times a week, that's not consistent. So can you dive more into consistency where an artist can actually feel like after listening to your response, they can feel like, okay, I am consistent. This is how I've chosen to be consistent, and I can feel good about that.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Consistency is it's just such a thing.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, what can you share about consistency?
Yeah, so the art of being consistent starts with structure. You talked about structure earlier, which I
Mm,
wrote down. I love that. Structure
mm.
systems is what you mentioned.
Systems,
But
yeah,
systems.
absolutely.
So you want to have a system in place with structure. And so when I started my podcast, I started it in 2022. It was early 2022. And I did a lot of research. And one of the gentlemen who I learned from said that you want to give yourself a set amount of time where you will show up weekly or daily within that time frame. So in this case, it was 35 weeks. So I was like,
Mm.
oh, 35 weeks, that's almost a year, you know?
Right?
But I needed to throw myself into it. I needed to accumulate the hours. I needed to
Mm.
have the whack videos. I needed to put everything out and experiment. So
That's
within that
right.
35 weeks, by the time we got to week 35, I had already built like a nice following. And then beyond week
Mm.
35, that's when it started to,
Mm.
blow up, right? Like
Absolutely.
yeah, for
You're
something
gaining
that
some
was so
traction.
fresh. Yeah. So it was like having that system of, hey, I'm gonna do this. So if you're a new artist, I would, and if we're talking in a sense of social media or just sharing online, that's something I'm still working on because
Right.
I'm very modest and I don't always share like my art as much as I need to. And
Mm.
I mentioned offline that I had been gatekeeping myself. That's
You
another
said that,
another
that gate.
conversation. but I would say like if you're a new artist, like I would show up every day. Like
Mm.
I'm after this video, after this call, like I'm making a commitment to share my art every day, at least for the next 2 weeks. So it's
Mm.
14 days. And that could
Mm.
be hard because, there's a lot of things that, like, for me personally, I'm a family guy. Like, there are a lot of
Yeah.
responsibilities, but
Yep.
as you can see, I've invested in myself and I
Absolutely.
keep this around me to remind me, like, hey, like, you're dope,
That's
So,
right.
yeah, so for the new artist, consistency starts with committing to a
Mm.
number and
Yes.
showing up.
Yes. Woo! Good. Oh my gosh. Okay. Like,
That's what's up.
mind blown. Okay. Because all of that, all gems, all day, every day. Like, whew. All right. So, commitment. All right. I was just speaking with an artist the other day about commitment.
Yes.
And what I shared with them is that you have to come to grips with the fact that you're not going to show up at some point. Like, stop resisting making a commitment because I'm afraid I won't show up. It's just bound to happen. That's life. You have a job that you're committed to. You don't show up to that job every day. Like things happen in life and it will like sideswipe you a little bit, but that doesn't mean you're a loser now. like, but just at least mentally say, I'm making that commitment
Mhm.
and then just keep moving forward. You'll be thrown off course, yeah, but then get back on course. Like it's okay. And so I love that. And that was enough. I need to write a list of like all the C words
Yeah.
here. You know what I'm saying? Confidence, consistency, all of these. So yeah, that is wonderful. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So good. Okay, y'all. Y'all better show some love. Y'all, we always hollering out artists support artists, right? So make sure you click those links in the description and holler at the homie Freed. Okay. Support him on not only his Instagram page for his art, we're talking about his podcast here. So let's dive a little more into that. Let's dive a little more because I want to talk about
staying encouraged. So there are a lot of different frustrations that creators have, but I will ask that in your capacity, your podcast, and with artists who have been reaching out or connecting with you or in just conversations, what are some of the top frustrations that you hear from creatives, or of course even your own, that you could connect with, but what are some of the top ones?
I feel like the top frustrations when it comes to being a creator and staying encouraged is that at some point, as you're doing it, okay, at some point, as I was doing it,
Okay.
it became a chore. Like, oh, you know what? I don't even want to do this.
So
And when
you're
I
gonna
had
get
that
me
real,
hollering?
yeah, I was like, yo, I don't want to do this. And it was a lot. And then at the top of the year, I went through the consideration phase of, do I even want to do this? Like
Mm,
and I say this with love, like in real life, like
absolutely.
I'm a very dope person. So I do a lot of things, like I make my money offline, but I
Mm,
also work online and I'm into tech and all of that. So I have all these
ah,
other things that I'm into.
awesome.
And the art again is for joy. So it took until recently when I found this new animation program where my spark for art like really came back like hard. So I'm learning. It's
Ooh.
making me want to learn all this other stuff. So to stay encouraged, I would say I would take it back to the central purpose. Like, what are you
Mm.
like? I didn't do this for the likes. I had one video really blow up. My first video blew up. Then I got caught up in the likes. I was like, oh,
Oh,
man, 100,000 like, let's go. You know what I mean? But the I did get some money, but
amazing.
it didn't like, it wasn't life changing to do that. So it was like,
Yeah.
what's life changing for me is creating something that's going to bring joy to people
Mm,
and creating something that I learned how to do, and I'm still learning. So that's what's really like got me pivoting back
mm.
versus being like, I don't really want to do this because it can be frustrating to kind of be at the will of the social media companies,
Yes, yes.
and the YouTubes and all that. But I
Yep.
think also I believe that it's a good opportunity if you stick it out and you just stay at it. Even if you take
Yes.
a hiatus, like right now on the
Yes.
podcast,
Mm,
I'm not posting every day on the podcast. I'm posting like frequently, but not
yes.
every day because I'm
Sure.
working on my art. Like now
Mm-hmm.
I've got enough consistency to where when I do come out, I want to come out considerate. I don't want to just come out just to come out. So
Yes.
yeah, so I
Absolutely.
no doubt. Yes. So I would just tell folks, take it
Mm,
back to the central purpose and continue to learn new
mm.
things. Don't stay stale and engage with other people because as you
Right.
engage with other people, you're going to bring new people to you, even if it's not the people that you're engaging with.
Mm.
So those are things that have helped me as I take my breaks and come back into it to stay encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. What? Okay, so as per usual throughout this conversation, you have been dropping more gems. I need to take notes. I
There
got a
you go.
notebook right here, and I guess I just like looking at it, but I'm
No,
just so locked into the conversation. I can't I'm trying to take it in, but oh my gosh, you really hit on some points, some really strong points here. Um, Especially when it comes to, let me see that. Yes, the consistency, but something that you said made me reference the word intentional. And so this is okay. Artists, listen up. Put your pens down, put your iPads down, unless you're watching this on your iPad, whatever. Okay. Focus, hear us. Okay. Intentional. So when it comes to being consistent, all right, what I would teach, coach, one-on-ones, all of that, what I say is, or I strongly suggest, is to make sure you're intentional. This isn't about just going through mindless movements. Okay. Like every day I do this thing. If unless that's part of your learning process, is for you to get to a point where you're like, okay, this doesn't look like it's getting any results, right? But to be intentional, that is so critical because you could spend, this is just a plug for some of y'all, right? Little tip. You could spend 1 hour, maybe even 2 hours being extremely intentional, creating a reels. And that thing might go much further with just one reel in a week than it would just creating random reels throughout the week. It's not your frequency, it's how intentional you are and how intentional you are to tailor that thing. And look at Freed's setup. If y'all are on the podcast, take a break, go check out the YouTube video, because Freed's setup shows me and most of us that he is very intentional with his presentation. And that takes some effort, that takes focus. You know what I'm saying? So being intentional and then being consistent, but tying those two things in there as you move forward. Super powerful, super powerful. Woo, okay. Deep
Absolutely.
breath. And I need a sip. I need to take a sip. It's just a lot. So,
Take a sip. Take
yeah,
a
I'm
sip. Lovely
telling
mug, by
you,
the way.
oh my goodness. So, okay, so you have just shared, a little bit of the frustrations, some things that you've experienced too, but do you also have artists that are, whether they're DMing you, whether they're commenting, what are you having artists that are being vocal about, hey, I can relate to this, or like, oh my gosh, like I experience that all the time.
Mhm.
You do? They're
Yeah,
being vocal.
artists are very vocal,
Yeah.
specifically in the DM. And this is one of the, you talk about
Mm.
encouraging or encouragement. As long as I get one person that reaches out, I could be like, damn, I don't really want to put this video out, even though I've got all this content. I get lazy sometimes. And then I'll
Mm.
remember someone reached out. Someone told me recently, they're on the other side of the world. I
Uh,
look forward to reading or to hearing your podcast every morning. So it's just like, wow, really? Okay, well, let me post more. You know what I
that's
mean? Like,
wonderful.
so yeah, yeah.
But see, that opens you up though, too. You had touched on something earlier about um what did you say earlier? See, this is why I need to take notes.
No, you're good. I've been taking notes on you.
I'm
You're
so in the
dropping
moment
gems.
though, right?
You're good. You're
But you
good.
had touched on something earlier, basically about what's life changing. That's what it was. Life
Yeah.
changing things. And so it's like you may have made, we may have received a response from social media. You may have fallen in love with the likes and the comments and all of the viral spin and all this too. But where are you feeling like there's a breakthrough for yourself? What does that look like? And sometimes my artists out here, they get, and I love them, of course. I love and I respect my artists. That's why we have respect the artists, right? That's the artist community. But sometimes they get really caught up in just how much money am I going to make? Like, tell me how much money am I going to make? Let me focus on that. Look, I've been through it. Freed, you've been through it. I'm sure, you get a significant, whether you're getting a significant amount of money, you've gotten paid a lot, whatever that looks like, a lot of money. But then are you really feeling like you're evolving? Are you really feeling fulfilled? Like in that, and that is, listen, that is prime. Like to have that before, like when you have that foundation of joy, what you were just mentioning about joy earlier, when you have that foundation of joy, when you're very confident and you're embracing your confidence, I say it like this because it's true. Everything else hit different. Every like is it's a different kind of like. Like it's like, oh my gosh, like when my Dream Aloud art page, when I had like 12 followers and then it went up to 25 and it was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited because I was literally doing the same thing I'm doing right now, just supporting artists, talking about artists, highlighting them, featuring them, like that makes me happy.
Yes.
But having that foundation, every follow, comment, like, DM, everything just hits different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just so critical. Artists, I can't put enough emphasis on that. What Frida's talking about, like that's a real energy. It's a real energy.
If I may interject briefly, one
No,
of the
add
things that you
on. Look,
one of
let's
the
go.
good well one of the things that I've been going back and forth, like, how am I going to present myself on this? I just respect you so much, right?
Ah,
I think one of the things, I believe one of the things that you've mastered that I'm inspired by is
mm,
community, because I
mm,
think that's something that helps people to stay encouraged. I got into RTA way back when, right?
back in them
And
days, boy, what?
yeah, and it helped. And even when I went away and then I came back and y'all were open, it just, community will help you to stay encouraged. I really appreciate you for creating a community There are no communities like this that I've seen. I've been in different communities, but
Mm.
one that just focuses on artists, like visual. I see a lot of visual art mostly. It's a beautiful thing. So just thank you for that. I just want to say that briefly.
Oh, it is. Look, it is my pleasure. I certainly appreciate it. And yeah, I guess it kind of has it's had me concerned, especially for the past few years, that I don't really see that. I don't see it. And just a quick plug, y'all, we would love to get back on our app again. Freed, you were on our app, right? When we had our app. Gosh, we would
Yes, I was
love
on
to,
that.
but it's so like the kind of and just a quick information, y'all. We used to have an app. Okay. So we used to have an app, but the traffic for the artists that were it was a good problem. The traffic for the artists that were coming through and wanted to sign up for RTA was too overwhelming for that particular platform to keep the how can I say, to keep the data, like to keep up with how many people wanted to join RTA. So that company was like a too amateur. I guess they're not amateur, but they work with smaller communities. Okay. And we're like, we ain't trying to be small. Like we're trying, you
Right.
know. So that was a good problem. But yeah, I'm definitely praying on leaning back into that and coming back really strong, like
Mhm.
get a platform that can actually support some high traffic
Most
and
definitely.
and high gigabytes and all that, because we know artists love these big old files.
Yeah, yeah, they
We
do.
love
They do.
videos and all of that.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely my pleasure, Freed. So yeah, let me say this real quick, y'all. To have another artist have a podcast where he is continuously putting out that message of confidence, encouragement, growth mindset, all of that, man, that is so refreshing. We need more of that. We really do, y'all. We really need more of that. So once again, y'all, make sure you support, follow on Instagram, follow the podcast on Freed's podcast, click all those links in the description. It would be appreciated. But yeah, so let me, because I'm a little curious about what topics fall under the growth mindset.
Mhm.
What are some topics that you dive into with growth mindset? And I'll say for me, like my first thought, growth mindset usually is associated with success, like the ideas of success, even leaning toward things like financial freedom and all of that, uh, entrepreneur life. But so tell me a little more about what growth mindset means for you and how you're discussing that. It may not be those things, but I'm just wondering what that looks like.
Yeah, I believe growth mindset to me looks like the intangibles. So
Okay.
persistence is definitely like the main
Oh, okay.
thing, right?
Ooh,
Um,
okay. I got
yeah,
you.
persistence, self-belief, personal development. That's what growth mindset looks like to me.
Mm, mm,
Success, I mean, whatever your definition of success is, that's the
right.
outcome, right? So that's going to be for you. I believe that's the outcome of applying those intangibles, of overcoming like those self-limiting beliefs.
That's
So
good. Wait, hold
yeah.
on. Let me catch that because that's really good. You said outcomes. Success is outcomes.
Yeah, I believe
That is
so.
so good. Okay, that is so good. That just blew my mind.
Mm.
Amazing. Okay, go ahead. I just evolved a little bit more. My
Oh,
aura
you
got stronger. So
that's what's
thank
up.
you.
Your
Thank you for
energy,
that.
your energy super dope. I can dig it. Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, for growth mindset for me, like, so one of the reasons I took a hiatus is and
Mm,
I'm gonna get a little personal here.
let's do it.
In 2021, I lost my mom, and I had
Mm.
lost her, like she passed away right before her birthday. So
Ah,
it was super
so sorry.
devastating. I
Yeah.
appreciate you. Thank you. So I remember like that weekend just not wanting to draw. Like, I'm done creating. Like, that was it. Like,
Ah,
I had lost my brother before, like years ago, and
mm,
that made me stop rapping, and I didn't want to do music anymore. So losing my mom was just like, it was really like heartbreaking. So a couple days later, I get an email from the Arizona Cardinals, and they were like, "Hey, we got your art. We about to we want to collaborate with you. Put this art out."
Oh my
And
gosh.
they put it out, and they put it out like the day of, like, it was the season opener. So they put it out on their social media page, and I remember being so down in the dumps, and I almost felt like that was like a spiritual,
Ah.
like a message from my mom, like, nah, you're gonna keep drawing.
Mm,
You didn't
mm.
make it this far just to
Oh,
make it
that's
this
so
far.
good. Ah.
Right. So it was just one of those things where and I'm kind of going on a tangent now. I'm trying to recall the original question. I'm so sorry. It's
No,
just one
you're
of those
fine. Lean
things
into
that,
it.
yeah, okay. I knew growth mindset.
Mm,
I could talk about all types of stuff, right? Like, I could talk about how to make art, which I am going to be doing that.
yes.
And I'm excited to do it now. I could talk
Yes.
about how to raise a dog. I could talk about how to be a dad. I could talk about relationships, all types of different things I could talk about. But I feel like none of that really has as much sizzle if you don't apply
Mm,
the concept of growth mindset, because that's where it starts, is to
mm,
just have
mm.
like that belief. So as I'm going through the grief of losing my mother, uh, someone close to me started a podcast, and they wanted me to just listen to it because I've been
Mm,
doing video calls for years. Like, as a profession, I do demonstrations over video. And
mm.
so they wanted me to give them feedback. So I gave them feedback. And I guess the feedback was so good that they asked me to be their manager. So I was like, wow, they want me to be a manager, huh? Well, maybe I could do this myself. So that's when I was just considering, like, what do I talk about? What do I start with? And I
Yeah.
felt like at that period of time, a lot of people had lost a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and
Very
I
true.
wanted to help them to overcome, or not necessarily overcome, but just like, hey, you're not by yourself. You have a
Absolutely.
genuine guy here. There's no judgment. I'm just want to help you to stay strong mentally as you go through what you go through. But I
Right.
want to focus more on the positive, like, that's how I'm leaning into the good vibes, into the good energy, and this
Mm.
growth mindset. Like, I listen to, like, I used to watch a lot of infomercials when I was a kid. We didn't have cable, so infomercials was on. That's the only thing that was on, like,
Right.
24/7. So I'm up at 1 in the morning watching infomercials, and Tony Robbins would come on. And
Ah.
so I thought it was corny initially. I was like, but then as I got older, once I became an adult, I started listening to folks like Earl Nightingale and Jim
Mm,
Rohn and
mm.
Les Brown, and it
Yes.
became real to me.
Come
Like, oh,
on.
it's
Yep.
helping me. So, and this is information that's been around for, like, since the 70s, maybe even before
A
then, right?
long
50s,
time.
60s.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, let me
Hmm.
put out something that I could leave behind for my sons and their
Yeah.
sons. And like this, like, I'm thinking 100 years out. Like, what kind of
Mm.
messages do I want to have resonate with people? By the way, I also make art, and I want to make sure that you had the confidence to come out, because for me, one of the things that's been missing is I just put the art out, but I never put myself out. So that was a big challenge with the, you know what I mean? Even when I did the rap, I was like, I didn't really put myself out like that. It was just more like,
Oh.
let me hide behind this art, let me post and ghost. So that's like something I'm really, I'm still like dealing with that, because it's just like, well, I suffer a lot from imposter syndrome early on. Just like,
Mm.
should I be doing this? There's people out here that's like really doing this. Like, I'm not comparing myself to anybody, but I'm thinking about Earl Nightingale. Earl
Yeah.
Nightingale, he made the strangest secret. He has a super deep, rich voice like I do. So I always kind of
Yes.
modeled my
Yeah.
tone and vibe after his calm and
All
chill.
right.
But that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm like, I shouldn't be. And then I would start comparing myself. I look at other people's pages and see what they're doing. And it's like,
Mm.
I should be, you should never say I should be there. And that is
Yeah.
when it doesn't become fun to create,
That's right.
right? So growth
All facts.
mindset allowed me, when I start studying the topic that I'm talking about, it allows me to recognize that moment quickly and throw it away and move
Yeah.
on with good energy.
Mm, that is so good. Oh my gosh. Listen.
Thank you.
Okay, so now you have given me perspective because I feel like I have been talking about growth mindset and I didn't even know it, I guess.
Yeah, you definitely
I mean, you
do.
got me going because I'm like, really focusing on confidence and really, giving a lot of energy to that and understanding the importance of that. that does feel like it's along those lines of growth mindset and how you're communicating about it. And
Yes.
I never thought about that, but that is, yeah, that's good. Especially, you touched on the legacy that you want to leave. And it's, well, you touched on a lot of different things, but it's so, well, you touched on the legacy, and let me speak on that too, or let me respond to that, because how do you want to be remembered? You know, but it's also important that you find joy in how it is that you want to be remembered. If you are that artist who wants to focus purely on the art itself, wonderful. Do you find yourself in that state of joy while you're doing that, while you're creating? Okay, then lean into that. But then I know for someone like myself, it's it's almost like the most potent energy that I could ever create is vocal, so is to hold the mic, is to teach, is to have a platform, is to have a stage, is to have an audience. That's just, like when I was a child, um, and as a child and into my adulthood, even now, but now I'm a little calmer, but I will say all my life, I remember sitting among the audience and that felt strange.
Mm.
It feels more natural for me to be in front. Like
Mm.
that, some people are usually like, "What?" Like, oh, like no, trust me. When I sat in a class, I would just feel like this is odd. When I got in front of the class, I felt better. Like I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be, And
Yeah.
so just like recognizing those things, leaning into those moments, what feels very natural for you, and then connecting that to legacy. What am I speaking about? Right. So it's not just like, oh, okay, I could speak because I used to sing, but that didn't feel like a lifelong thing I was going to be doing. Right. So it's like, what is really resonating with you? How is it impacting not only myself, but others, like that legacy, man, it's so critical. But let's connect to another thing we were talking about. You said so much, Reed. You said so much.
For
Well,
sure.
you said ghost and what did you say? Post and ghost?
Ghost and
What?
ghost.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Do a lot of that. I do that to this
you
day.
had me going.
Hmm.
That is so good. But you also touched on putting yourself out there, getting more personal
Yes.
and doing things that feel personal to you, I'll say.
Mm.
But yeah, putting yourself out there. And you know, I always tell artists that it just really, when people are looking at your work, I mean, it all depends on what you're trying to do, period. Okay. But when people look at your work, that's one thing. If they look at your work by itself and that really resonates with them and that gets them to take action, that's great. That's wonderful. But listen, if you are in person with someone and you're selling your work in person, there have been so many artists that I've spoken with where they share that they sell more work in person than they do online. And that's because we get to see the artist, we get the experience of you, your energy, your words, your conversation, all of that. And it just hits completely different,
Mm.
So just putting your actual self out there, being more authentic,
Yes.
and don't be afraid of that because as you had mentioned earlier too, excuse me, is
Mhm.
that the supporters, they are going to support, right? You
Yeah.
were, referencing something I said a while ago, but
Mhm.
they just, like don't get caught up in all this extra stuff that's out here. I mean, it's really good to have certain desires and say, yeah, I would love to have this desired result.
Yeah.
But what feels good? What feels right for you?
Yes.
What makes you feel balanced at the end of the day? So,
Absolutely.
oh my gosh. Friend,
You dropping gems too.
what
Yo, I got a whole
oh,
page of notes. Let's go. I don't show up. I'll tell you, I'm a lifelong student. Like if you come on here,
got to be.
you're a teacher, right? A master teacher. Why would I not take notes? Like I'm learning from you.
What?
I
Oh
want to
my
build a
gosh.
community. I want to have folks,
Listen.
you know what I'm saying? Like the mindset awards, like I want to do stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like for artists, if any artist comes on here, like
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that they're open to learning. Like I could talk about
Mm,
myself, but I'm more interested in learning what you have to say because you're dope
yeah.
and you're doing things at a higher level and places that I want to get to.
Mm.
So yeah,
Oh, I
you're
appreciate it.
dropping gems, yeah.
I appreciate that, but you know what? I'm gonna share a quote with you because it stuck with me, and I feel so bad right now in this moment because I don't remember who said it. But
Uh,
if any of y'all want to Google it, please Google it and drop it in the comments for whomever said it. But there is a quote that somebody well known has said, but it had to do with like the greatest teachers are the same ones who are also a student. You know, like the best teachers are the best students, something along those lines.
yeah.
Because as much as I love to talk, and I was just talking to my friends about this weekend,
Mhm.
as much as I love to talk, when there's someone that I want to learn from, I know how to zip it up. I know how to be like honed in, focus,
Mhm.
because I'm still open to growing and learning. Like, even though I'm doing some of the same things I did when I started my Dream Aloud art page, if you scroll all the way back and you look at the first videos that I did, it's nothing compared to what I have going on right now.
Mhm.
However, I'm humble enough, right? And we have to be humble enough to realize that if we're still evolving, then a year later, it's not going to look the same as it is right now. 2 years later, it's not going to look the same either. So
Mhm.
just keep leaning into being open to receiving that information, receiving that knowledge. And there's just so much to explore, and there's so much that it just feels like a reward to my soul. You know, if you just
Yes.
artist, if you just keep leaning into that creativity. And I know
Mhm.
some people say dabbling, and I just feel like, they just give such negative energy to dab. I know you said dabbling earlier, right?
Yeah.
But there's a special, let me say, if you're moving forward with positivity, there
Mhm.
is a special, there's like how can I say this? I guess moving forward with a joyful energy in the dabbling, then it doesn't
Mhm.
feel bad. It feels like you're allowing yourself to do this. So I love kids, right? And what I love most about kids, Fareed, is that like kids don't overthink stuff. Now I'm talking about more in the ranges of like between 5 to 8, okay, where they're at least talking and communicating, and they have a general idea of what's right, wrong in their minds, right? But yeah, they can just do whatever. Look, hold on, I got some stuff right here.
All right.
This kid, because I keep all the art they give me, right? So this
Okay.
kid did this, and
Nice.
I don't remember the kids. Oh, they put "I love you, Miss Frederick." Okay, okay. I love you, Miss Frederick. But when they did this, they were
Nice.
so excited. Like that. They were just like, look what I did for you. And then, of course, my response, I was like, so I'm jumping up and down. And that just encouraged them to create more. So, like that child
Mhm.
in us, like it's not talking like when people say, oh, the child in you, and I'm not when I say it, I'm not referring to like being immature, or childish, okay? But it's to just allow yourself to just
Mhm.
do it. Just roll with it. Don't think like that child is not thinking about who's gonna like this when I post it. Like
True.
about that.
Mhm.
They do it, and they do it with excitement.
Yes.
So just
Yes.
like that kind of energy, when you're like, you know what, let me try a little bit of blue, let me try a little bit of this,
Mhm.
let me crumple it up in a ball, let me open it back up again and find joy in that doesn't feel like, oh, I better come up with something to make me money.
Yeah.
It's like, but that's what we do sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And I understand, with the things that we're vibing on, Freed. Yes, I understand. As an adult, yeah, you do have responsibilities and all of that too. But once again, it's what kind of energy are you giving those responsibilities? Like when I say systems, oh man, that's a trigger word for some artists. They're like, systems.
Yeah.
We're anti-construct. We don't need systems. And I say, you know what? You got a digestive system, don't you? You got a nervous
Mhm.
system. That's beautiful, isn't it? Systems are good. Systems are needed. We need systems, to live. So
Yes.
coming up with a system for your business, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just giving it some order, giving it some structure, but we're going to give a good
Mhm.
energy to that. You know what I'm saying? Reed feels me. My fellow podcaster.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Y'all, once again, y'all, please click the links in the description. Support the homie Freed. Y'all, this like having creative
Appreciate
platforms where we can have conversations critical. So
it.
critical. And
Yes.
Freed, wait, where are you at? Like what state are you in?
Yeah, I'm in Arizona. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Shout outs to the West Coast. Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
dry heat land. Isn't it dry heat out there?
You know what? It's just like, so I'm from, like I mentioned, I'm from Fresno.
Okay.
I'm at a point now where like hot is hot. You know what I'm saying? Arizona, though, I will say this. Last summer was probably the hottest summer on record.
Oh
I don't know if it
wow.
was a yeah, I don't know if it's a dry heat. I don't know what it was. I just know it was super hot, like 120
What?
degrees.
Woo!
And my AC broke.
Oh my
I was like,
gosh.
yeah, it was a grind of a summer. So yeah, but I love Phoenix. I moved out here 21 years ago, and it's
Oh my
been
gosh.
a beautiful experience living in Phoenix.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I was just wondering because y'all, we have Freed and I were just sprinkling a little bit of thoughts as far as in-person interviews. And of course, with respect to artists, we have had some meetups before, but to be more intentional, right? Students,
Mhm.
art students out there, you taking notes, but intentional with those meetups, even supporting, okay? Because recently I had interviewed Shanice's Pieces, who's also a Respect the Artist member, and she's out in Texas. And so she has her own gallery and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I would love to come out there, So I was just gauging where you're at because we would like, if we can get like members to just like, hey, come out and support each other in different ways. Once again, that in-person energy, that's next level. That's real life, like that's real life.
Yes.
This is part of your real life experience too. But
Mhm.
in person, yeah, that would be wonderful. So
Yeah.
Freed, oh my gosh. This has been such an amazing conversation. I have grown. I have grown some growth mindset. I have definitely
Hey.
taken away. But I'm going to ask because I used to do the word game and I still
Mm.
love the word game, but I want to give a little more, give some, well, I don't even know what to call them. I just call them questions, but it's really like you're filling in the blank. Okay. So you're
Uh-huh.
filling in the blank. We're going to like segue onto that. All right.
Okay.
So
Oof.
confidence is,
Conf- Confidence is supreme.
mm, mm,
Confidence is supreme. That's the first thing that came to mind.
yes. Okay. That's good. All right. Creativity is,
Creativity is life.
mm, that's it. Y'all, come on now. Anything that exists had to be created. All right.
Yes.
I
Ooh.
believe. The next one is I believe.
The first thing that came to my mind is I believe in God. And I
Yes.
have to have
I believe in God.
some sort of, and I won't get too like religious or spiritual, but
I
there is
understand,
just, I'm
but
very
I'm open.
grounded in, are you okay? I'm very grounded in my spirituality.
Mm,
And, when I go out, you talk about creativity when I take my dog out for walks, and I appreciate every step on that walk.
yeah.
I mean, from the concrete I'm walking on to the sun that hits my face, like
Yeah.
it's something it's a higher power that created
That's
all of this
right.
beauty. And
Mm.
yeah, so I'm gonna go too deep in the weeds, but I
No,
believe in
I
God.
love that. No, listen, I've interviewed some artists where that's like the majority of our conversation. Like it's like
Okay,
30
okay.
minutes we are talking about
Yeah.
that. So yes, I'm right there with you. I'm extremely I am, well, extremely, I don't know, that sounds kind of hardcore, but I will say I am very aware of my
Yes.
spirituality. And
Okay.
yeah, that's a core thing for me. So yes, shout out
Yes.
to you. Gratitude is everything too.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, so the next one is love is. Love is.
Oh, I was gonna say love never fails.
Okay.
um, but
Mm.
love applied never fails, right?
Yeah,
So that's my fill in the
that's
blank.
good. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, two more. Time is.
of the essence. Time is of the
Woo!
essence. Let's get to it. Right? Like let's like I say, when we done with this, I'm gonna follow you. We on the same wavelength because I was gonna
Yep.
follow you. And then I got caught up in trying to clean everything up. I wanted a nice space, cleaning up, vacuuming. And but then you was like, I found the podcast. I was like, oh
Yep.
my gosh, like we're on the same frequency. So time is of the essence. When we're done, I'm gonna definitely give you a follow and I'm gonna share some art on Call Center TV today.
Come on.
Yeah.
What? You got it. Time is of the essence. And the last one is art is. Art is.
Life. Art is life. We got life, a couple of creativity and art is life.
Yes, that is
Yes.
correct. I know
Yeah.
when you said creativity is life, I was thinking he's gonna say the same thing for art
Art is
because
life,
you
art
had
is
said that.
love. Yeah.
Yeah,
Art. Oh,
yeah.
here's another one. I would say art is universal, right? Even
Mm,
though it's subjective, it does bring
mm.
people together. So, I talked about earlier in the conversation, like literal, like gang members, like don't, walk across the street when they coming your way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But they know me as the artist, and it's cool. I get love from
Mm.
everybody, all the way to people from across the pond, if you will,
Yep, yep.
who don't look like me. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's why I create with no judgment in mind.
Mm,
Like art is
mm,
very universal.
mm. So good. Nothing but gems. This is a gem conversation. I'll tell you what I do take notes of, and I have several on my phone over here. I take notes of the gems that you were dropping. So I have plenty of gems to choose
Nice.
from for sure.
That's what's up.
So Freed, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to as we close up this fire interview?
Oh wow. I'm
So
so
many people.
yeah, I'm so personal. I don't talk about
Mm.
anybody that I know, and I don't know if should. I'm gonna tell you this. Shout out to my son,
Oh,
Little Freed. He's turning
oh.
13 on Thursday,
Oh,
and he is a
yay.
very gifted piano player. So I
Mm.
want to shout him out. He was right there with me, and he was liking my videos and just looking at talking to me about it. He's a little kid, So shout
Mm.
out to my son. I love you,
Oh my goodness. Yes. Big shout out to Little Freed.
Little Freed.
Shout out to you. Yay. Because we need that, like it's just, yeah, yeah. It's nice. It's nice to have that encouragement from people that you love and care for.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
huge. Awesome. Freed, once again, it has been a pleasure having you on the Dream Aloud Art interviews on YouTube. Truly do appreciate it, y'all. So, me and Frida are going to stick around, y'all. Artists, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you bounce back to the YouTube video to get the full experience of this conversation and click all those links in the description. Have a link clicking party and hashtag artist support. I want to see y'all come through. You already know, okay? Once again, y'all, RTA stands for respect the artists. Love y'all. Holler.
Creatives, it has been both a pleasure and an honor to have you sit in on our conversation today. So, will you be the next artist interviewed? Visit respecttheartist.com/artist interviews to learn more. And hopefully, I'll see you soon. RTA stands for Respect the Artists. Love y'all.